Welcome back, sci-fi fans, to the Science Fictionary Podcast. I'm Andrew here with Marisha and one of our very favorite guests, Nicole.
Hello.
And so we're finally kicking off something I think I probably started teasing maybe last December. I don't know. It's
I
been a
think
long
so.
time.
It feels like it's been a year in the making,
It
and I'm
has.
like
There's a lot of stuff got put off this year,
excited.
but so we're going to be talking Muppets. We're going to kick it off. I mean, it was too good a time to just start with the Muppet Christmas Carol, and that and some of the other. There's actually more Muppet Christmas stuff than I realized.
Heck yeah. There's like three.
Well, there's at least three. So
Yeah.
I was looking. So we've got the Muppet Christmas Carol, but there's also a Muppet Family Christmas, which
Yes.
I never knew about until last year. We did a watch party with over with From a Certain Point of View, I
Oh
believe.
yeah, I was there. I was there.
Okay. So we did that, and that was my introduction to a Muppet Family Christmas. And then
Mhm.
it's a very merry Muppet Christmas movie, which I've never seen.
With John Denver, if I'm correct, right? That's that
I
one.
think you're right.
I have that one on vinyl record.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
know.
There's a
Not
Muppet
nerd at all.
Christmas. There's a Muppet Christmas Letters to Santa, which
Okay, that's the one I haven't seen yet.
yeah, I hadn't seen that one. And then there's Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas,
The original. That's what
the original. That's old Muppets. Like, how old? Like that predates.
That's the
You know
first
what
showing
year?
of Kermit in movie form.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you anybody hearing an echo?
No.
No.
Oh, it's my phone. I keep it on my phone so that I can do the chat. And I was like, why am I hearing us again?
Emmett Otter came out in a very good year, also known as 1977.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. December 4th, 1977.
Okay.
I mean,
Wow.
like, we're really talking some good stuff now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's
sure.
that's awesome, and I have seen that one. It's been a little while, but I mostly wanted to get everything Muppet Christmas is fair game. I think there's even it may be relatively recent, but I think there's actually a Fraggle Rock Christmas special,
Probably.
which makes a lot of sense given that it was Jim
Well-
Henson's musical project. But
Although I think the one that really brings everything together is the Family Christmas, because it's the Muppets, Fraggle Rock Muppets, Sesame Street. It's all of them. Like,
Yeah.
it only Jim Henson can do that. And he was still with us. He was still alive when that happened. And that's such a good one.
yeah. Yeah, I showed Marisha. I don't think Marisha had ever seen it, and I showed Iana, our oldest daughter, a scene from the special that they did with the Muppets after Jim passed, and Iana was like, "That was sad. Why did you show me that?" I was like,
Oh,
and then I was like, "I'm sorry," and then she was like, "No, like it was really good, but it was also kind of sad." So, and Andrew says in 1977 he was minus 28 years old.
yeah, we don't discuss that.
Well,
Yeah.
I was only minus 3 years old.
I'm minus somewhere in there.
But real quick, let's see who's in the chat. Megan is in the chat. Thank you for showing up, Megan, and Andrew. Andrew was on with us a couple of weeks ago for trivia.
Yes.
Oh, and Uvaldo's here. Awesome.
Uvaldo, hello.
Yep. Hey.
But Andrew played some Cornetto movie trilogy with us. That was a lot of fun.
It's true. Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. I think my questions might have been too hard, but
Whoops.
Yeah.
well, when I wrote them, I thought I had somebody coming who was kind of a ringer, and I couldn't convince him to come on. And I was trying to make sure the questions were at least a challenge. If anybody had that kind of knowledge of it, I wanted it to be a challenge. But so let's just jump right in. Let's talk about it. What is it about? I know some people like some of the other Christmas stuff, but the one that has really endured as a yearly must watch for a lot of people is Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I mean, so it came out what, 1992? I think.
That sounds right. I should have had that date pulled up.
It
I'm
came
pretty sure I
out
looked it up.
December 11th, 1992. But
Okay.
add a prequel fun fact here,
Sure.
and I actually put it out today. I know we talked about how we wanted to do this last week. Okay, life happened and get in the way. But today was still just as perfect because today is actually the 180th birthday of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
Wow.
It's a
That's
birthday.
awesome.
It's a celebration of a
Yeah.
legacy that has like stood the test of time, like book-wise, movies, TVs, shows, you know.
Yeah, so endlessly
fun
adapted.
stuff and you know, more fun stuff. And Charles Dickens has lived on and proved that your legacy can truly live on.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so whenever I was a kid, I guess my grandparents had the Muppet Christmas Carol on VHS, and we used to watch it. And when I read A Christmas Carol, and I was probably 10 or 12 or so, I was very confused because there was only one Marley. There was only a J. I was like, but I thought there were two. I was really very confused. So yeah, it was my introduction to Dickens there.
Yeah. So what is it about this one? I mean, obviously it's a classic story, you know, we just, you know, as Nicole just pointed out, I mean, the story's it's 180 years old
today.
And is it the combination of something as beloved as Muppets and something as enduring as Charles Dickens' probably most classic book? I mean, it really creates something magical. I mean, most people will pull this one. And I think that's the thing, the two that everybody pulls out have in common is people pull out this one or Muppet Treasure Island as their favorite Muppet projects pretty frequently. And I think it's because they started with such a strong foundation for their story.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to argue with Michael Caine as Scrooge.
Yes.
You know, I mean, he's
agreed.
I don't think it's ever been done better. I think I won't say I've seen every adaptation of A Christmas Carol, but I have seen a lot of them.
Same.
And it's just never been done that well. I don't think Scrooge has ever been done that well.
I heard a fun fact about Michael Caine and his wanting to be Scrooge. He would only accept it if he was allowed to do it like as a true, authentic Shakespearean actor. He was going to take it. Didn't matter if he had Muppets or not as his co-stars. Whoever his co-stars were, he wanted to be serious about it. And I think that's why it turned out the way it turned out. I think it turned out in such an amazing way because it wasn't like he was like, oh, I'm playing against a Muppet. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he was genuine and just treated them as if he was with another human. And not
exactly.
Well, that's it. There's kind of this joke that goes around in circles that the reason that the Muppet Christmas Carol worked so well is that Michael Caine treated the Muppets like other actors.
Correct. Agreed.
And that the reason that Muppet Treasure Island worked so well is because Tim Curry treated himself like another Muppet.
Well, have it there.
And I mean, but seriously, like if you look at it, like you can even go back and look through episodes of the Muppet Show itself. And you have some actors that just kind of show up and do their thing. But then the ones that are really fun, like Mark Hamill is a really classic one, especially in the circles we run in because he's Mark Hamill. But Mark Hamill shows up and treats himself like a Muppet. I mean, he seriously does. He's just another just another Muppet on the stage when he's there. But then you have other people that show up and take it very seriously and treat the Muppets like serious performers. And I think that formula works really well across time with Muppets, and is that those are the two things that really make a performance with the Muppets stand out,
especially an adaptation of a classic story.
Yes.
You know, it's and honestly, it's such a dark story in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of there's a lot of that, but it is also it's a dark story. It's a little scary, especially for kids, but they managed to do it in a way that even young children can engage with. Like I remember being a little scared of the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come as a kid, but they don't push him into the grave like they do in the book. He doesn't push Scrooge into the grave, and
Right.
So it's a really good and there's always something about things that are it's got the kind of little bit of slapstick stuff for the kids, but it's also got enough, especially having Gonzo as Charles Dickens, making kind of the it's got enough things for adults that even if like Muppets aren't nearly as much my thing as they are Andrew's. But Muppet Treasure Island, or Muppet Christmas Carol rather, has just always been a favorite because it's almost a little more serious than most Muppet movies. It strikes such a good balance between the really serious themes and the kind of lighthearted. I think the lighthearted nature of the Muppets kind of balances out some things that could be a little scary, a little dark for kids.
No. So outside of Michael Caine, who is absolutely brilliant in this and is really what makes this a really special thing, and not just, I love the Muppets. There's very few Muppet things I don't like in some capacity, but like this one is something really special because of Michael Caine's performance. But outside of that, like which characters do you like the most in this story? Nicole?
Well, of course, there's Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
It's Kermit. He's playing a very Bob Cratchit. He's playing a very beloved character. Gonzo, of course, is Gonzo as Charles Dickens was brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant. Deciding for casting. Oh my gosh. Trying to think. Marley is I'm just hearing them. The one that confused Marisha for the rest of his life, until she was 10 or 12. I'm trying to think of those two because all I can think of is Charles and Pat or Cam, Ray, and Adam. I don't know. That's who I think of when I think of those characters for the Muppets.
Yeah. Honestly, I think those may have been my favorites as a kid. Yeah. Because they were just so weird,
Well, it's interesting because I don't remember as a kid, I remember watching the other Christmas movies for Muppets, but I don't remember watching this one. I did watch Mickey's Christmas Carol. That was my introduction to Charles Dickens. So I always knew there was one because Goofy played Marley.
Right.
Which also just celebrated its own anniversary of 40 years.
Yeah.
But and again, another testament to Charles Dickens. Anyways, and so I think with this one, I think I saw it later in my life because I know this came out at the same time as Home Alone 2 as well as Aladdin. So my eyes were definitely averted in other places.
Right.
So I watched it later and and I've also been told that it's different than when you watch it yourself versus when you watch as a kid, especially with a particular movie scene that was cut that we can talk about whenever we choose or when you guys choose to talk about it. Anyways, I just think, I don't know. The casting was great. It was great. So I will start there because I do have a fun fact I want to grab up on my phone that I had seen today about Kermit. So
about Kermit, I always really did like Gonzo as Charles Dickens. It was just like, and that's always the thing about adaptions of especially 19th century British writers, that kind of like tongue-in-cheek, omniscient British author thing that they had going. It's like trying to do an adaptation of Jane Austen with no narrator. It's like so many of the best lines are narrator. They're not dialogue; they're little quips that the narrator makes.
Mm-hmm.
And so having Charles Dickens there was a really fun way to kind of include some of my favorite things about the Christmas Carol, which is just the kind of the way that the author writes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I always was really fond of Gonzo.
Mm-hmm.
And like the light,
Rizzo.
not the rat, not the light, like the light, not the rat.
Oh, Bob.
But yeah, no, I mean Kermit's always great. Gonzo's great.
Mhm.
The Marleys are a ton of fun in this.
Yes.
And that may be one of the best uses of those two characters that they've ever really done.
Those two are just hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to include this fun fact I had heard.
Sure.
Actually, I've heard it before, but I kind of doing some research to reconfirm. So Steve Whitmire, he played the voice of Kermit. And Kermit the Frog, this was the first time that was not Jim Henson voicing him. And I guess he was apprehensive about this. And it is said, it has been said, again, things I have seen in other podcasts and things, that he had a dream the night before he was to play Kermit, and that was that Steve Henson was in his, Jim Henson was in his dream and said something that he'd always heard him say, which is, it'll pass. And then the way, I guess he did something with his two fingers on his chin, and it was like in a white hall or something, like as a way to like be, and who knows? I mean, I do believe in dreams. Dreams can happen, things like that. But I thought that was really interesting. I've heard the story before, and I had heard it again preparing today. And I was just like, that is such a cool fun fact, especially when you're talking about Christmas Carol, because he's getting met by three spirits. And the fact that somebody had a dream about somebody else who had already previously done this puppeteering in his position, I mean, that had to be, it's hard to not believe it for me. I'm like, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I know. I get chills. Personally, I get chills. I'm like, that's cool.
Who wants to do anything that Jim like who wants to take over Jim Henson's job?
Well, his son did in this case.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I felt like this was the passing of the torch. I was really, it's exciting as an adult to know this, that like he stepped into his father's role. And he did it in such a beautiful way. There's only one thing I didn't like about the show, and we'll get to it. But like everything else was perfect. It was great. It was wonderful, to the point that we're still talking about it. How many years later? Next year will be it's what 40th, or it's gonna be 30th, 35. I'm doing math very quickly in my brain, like 1992. No, I'm actually ahead. Okay.
Well, this year would have been 31st.
So it's beloved. I give him kudos. He did a great job. He did a phenomenal job on this.
Yeah. I just want to say hello to Bob real quick. I don't know. Bob has been on the show with me before, but I don't know that Bob has ever popped in during a live stream. So welcome to the chat. But yeah, that's I forget. I'm totally just lost my place. What next?
Yeah. So
well, I do want to talk about that deleted scene. Does that deleted scene doesn't actually exist, does it?
Yes, it does.
Does it? Well, it was lost for years.
So the song. So the scene that
Okay.
we're talking about, for those who are in the chat, is there was a song called "When Love Is Gone," both with Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge and Meredith Braun as Belle, his love interest. What I heard is that Brian Henson didn't want to cut, but because other people said it was boring, they wanted to cut. They said in theatrical release it was cut, but if you had it on VHS, bingo. So this is why you keep your physical media, friends. There you go. You want a reason to keep your VHS? There's your reason. Because if you like that song, lucky people like Marisha got to have that while
Well, and I think that that's the
That's
only
funny.
form it exists in anymore
Is
is
the
the VHS. I think that the film degraded and was lost.
That's
So they
weird.
haven't been able to
Hmm.
recreate
Yeah.
it from
that
the original
crazy?
film stock. It doesn't exist.
Isn't that
Interesting,
crazy?
because they actually reference back to it at the end whenever they're singing "The Love Is Found."
Yes.
Like it's kind of it's a night, and so it's like it doesn't really work unless you have that moment.
Yeah. Well, the
Mhm.
producer said that it was too emotionally sophisticated
Right. And some said
Okay.
boring for kids.
for kids.
But for as an adult, that's where you find the appreciation. That's
Well, I
mean,
think
where you
that's
find the
what,
connection like Marisha found, that it connects to the end.
yeah,
Because you see another
100%.
side of Ebenezer Scrooge that you didn't see
Mhm.
before. It makes him more humane.
Yeah, when you like, I mean, I remember watching it as a kid and being like, but like realizing like this is the moment where he throws his future away, becomes that bitter. Like this is
Yes.
the moment whenever he steps down the path to being the bitter, lonely old man. And it was
Oh,
like as a kid, I remember like understanding like this is the moment where he chooses money over love.
that's horrible.
And yeah, I'm not too emotionally sophisticated for kids.
I mean, like,
I don't love that.
It
but I mean, I
wasn't
think
good
that's,
enough for you. It didn't go. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. And I
funny.
think,
Marisha, you're just sophisticated enough.
I guess so.
I know that Brian Henson said that it was also cut for time,
Hmm.
but
That's cool.
yeah, I mean,
I
I don't
mean,
buy it. I think they cut it. I think that I think the producers thought it was boring and cut it, is
Mhm.
ultimately what happened.
opposite.
And then a whole list of excuses came out for why. But
Hmm.
it's,
I had no idea that it had
but
been.
what you were talking about earlier, being told that it's different watching it as an adult than as a kid.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really interesting thing. And I don't think there aren't a lot of things that are that way
Mhm.
where you can, it's like, I always think about um The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe,
Mm.
which is a book that it's often said that you should read that book
Mhm.
3 times in your life and you will take
Yep.
something away from it
Mhm.
different each time. That you should read it as a child and you'll understand it one way, read it as a young adult, you'll understand it as a different, and then read it later in life and you'll understand different things from it again.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think this movie is a lot that way, is that as you age,
Mhm.
that you can take a lot of different things away from it.
Mhm.
I think
Because kids aren't really going to fully grasp what happened to Scrooge, how
right.
Scrooge became Scrooge. But, watching that as a young adult and seeing that and, you know, saying, I don't want to be that, and,
Mhm.
or to even see it, at a point where you're on that road. Because a
Mhm.
lot of people go down that road, especially now. Lots of people sacrifice even having families, having everything for money.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right. And well, this is also a testament to the original book, to Charles
Mhm.
Dickens.
Yes.
And that is, again, that I do highly recommend. If you've never read it, please do read it and read it multiple times, because I think it's just like Narnia. It's going to change
Mhm.
throughout your life. You're going to see it differently. And, big theme was redemption.
Mhm.
It's, and I think redemption is totally different in my brain as an adult than it was as a kid. Like, I think as a kid, when I watched it in another version with Mickey's Christmas Carol, is that I thought, oh, Scrooge just wanted money, not love. But I didn't catch the
Mhm.
whole redemption. But as an
Mhm.
Mhm.
adult, when I started, watching the other versions of A Christmas Carol and
Mhm.
watching Muppets Christmas Carol, and then I got to see as an adult what that looks
Mhm.
like. And that was like,
Mhm.
wow, like Scrooge was redeemed. And
Mhm.
that is huge. And that means that any of us can choose anytime to change it around.
Yeah.
And that's important to know.
Absolutely. And it's really unusual. One thing that's really unusual about a Muppet Christmas Carol is that the protagonist is an old man. That is not normal for kids' movies. Like, and I feel like in some ways that was probably a bit of a stretch to, I mean,
No,
Before
it's an
this, was it
interesting
really
choice
thought of
because the
as
book is not a kid's book.
no, it's not a kid's book.
But it's been pulled multiple times for
Mhm.
the telling
Adaptions for
for children's shows, and that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because it's so. I mean, it breaks all the rules of telling stories for children.
Mhm.
You know, they need a relatable character that they understand, and they do not understand anything about Ebenezer Scrooge.
Or really even
Bob Cratchit.
Cratchit.
I mean, it's
They
so
don't understand being
desperate to feed your family.
Yeah.
No, I
Mhm.
mean, and the fact that they managed to tell it so well, and for it to really resonate with children is really an accomplishment because it does not follow any of the rules of stories that you tell to children.
Mhm.
Especially make movies, sink movie money into these kinds of things. I mean, off the top of my head, can you think of any children's movies that the main character's a 60-year-old man?
I mean,
Up.
Up.
Pixar's Up.
Okay. Yeah.
And you gotta now. I think,
And he is kind of
part this,
Ebenezer
though,
Scrooge too.
is yeah. I think another, not as a main, but as a supporting character, and that is from Home Alone, the first one. And remember, they call him Old Man Marley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know
Yeah.
I'm stretching here.
No, that's true.
And of course, and then again, I go, but there's also Scrooge McDuck, and I grew up
Right.
with Scrooge McDuck, so
Mhm.
Mhm.
I was totally
That's funny.
relating there.
Yeah. I also remember being really confused as a kid. Like, because I also saw like the Mickey Christmas thing. And so like Scrooge McDuck and the whole Ebenezer Scrooge should like, because they were both greedy. Like I had like as a very young child, that whole like thing was a little confusing to me. So I was actually, one of the things I was noticing when I watched it the other day, for a movie with puppets, man, the costumes are good. Like I was looking at like all the characters, it was done like a BBC period movie. And that's a really interesting, like the backgrounds, the background actors, all of the human actors, everything is really, really well. I mean, it looks like a BBC. I mean, and they know how to do period stuff. You know, BBC knows how to do.
Well, and this was done over in England. I mean,
and it looks it. It was just, I was watching, I was like, wow, it's remarkable how much attention to detail they, and it's that weird juxtaposition of, imaginary and real. But it's remarkable how well they managed to pull it off. And maybe the only time we ever actually see Miss Piggy in a particularly sympathetic role.
Well, and if I'm reading this correct, the costume designers were Polly Smith and Anne Hollowood.
Okay.
I thought I heard somewhere else it was somebody else, but again, kudos to them because they don't. This movie is pretty much a cult following. It didn't get its dues. In the long run, I think it did. I think in the long run it wins out, but at the time, but you're right. The costumes were beautiful. They were gorgeous. His Scrooge's, suit, even, Rizzo looked adorable in what he was wearing, and that he's a rat.
Right.
Gonzo looks good as Charles Dickens. Like,
Yeah, it was really I don't guess I've seen it as an adult, but I didn't really even note it. But I was watching it the other day and it was like, wow.
It was good.
And I think in some ways it kind of carries over from Michael Caine's insistence that he get to play it like a real actor. they shot it like a real period piece.
Mhm.
They just happened to have
Yeah.
Muppets
I
instead
mean, this was a really, really big moment
of.
for the Muppets, though.
Mhm.
This is a movie that if this movie just falls on its face, maybe the end of the Muppets.
Mm.
Well, so 2 notes here. One, Anne Hollywood actually also, she had designed for the Muppet Show before. So she's been doing that. So she was kind of used to them.
Mhm.
The other thing I want to add is that originally this was supposed to be done as a TV special, just kind of like the other
Oh.
ones originally were. What changed is Disney. Disney
Okay.
was interested and went, we have a feeling this is going to be good, and bought the rights to Muppet's Christmas
Interesting.
Carol. And then once they signed on, that's when it went into theatrical release versus TV release.
Right.
Okay.
And then, of course, we all know in the long run they would end up buying the Muppets in the long run.
Mhm.
Yeah. 12 years,
But-
12 years later.
Yeah.
So did they?
It's
That's interesting.
mhm.
So did they film it as a TV special, or did they film it as?
They filmed it as for theatrical release.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
But then it
I
was
was- I
up
was-
against Home Alone 2 in New York, and then also against what was still out was Aladdin. That was up
Yeah.
against some hard contenders. It's a good
Yeah.
time to be a kid.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't realize that Aladdin and Home Alone 2 came out at the same time.
Well,
Yeah.
Aladdin was still in theaters. It had
Right,
already been
right.
out for a while.
But it was
Home
huge.
Alone was
Back in
sync.
those days, so things stayed in theaters a long time.
They did, especially comparatively. I mean, they don't stay in
Mhm.
theaters anytime now, but
Yeah.
but I mean, Aladdin was big. I mean, Aladdin,
yeah.
they, it stayed at the top for a long time.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
Home Alone 2, Home Alone 1 was an unexpected juggernaut.
Right.
Yes.
Like, it was just going to be this simple Christmas film, and it just became this enormous thing.
Yeah.
And then because of that, Home Alone 2
Right.
was, a really, really big
Yeah.
deal when it came out. So yeah, it had some pretty stiff competition, especially in a month where back then there wasn't a ton of competition in the theaters in December back then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All the big stuff was all piled into the summer months.
Mhm.
But yeah, Disney getting involved was a big thing there.
Mhm.
But this was the first, I believe, the first really big project after Jim passed. Jim died in 1990.
Okay, it's a technical because there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was his last technical project, and this is it's yes.
Yeah.
In regards to Kermit, 100%.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. So, did this actually go into production after he died, or were they working on it before he
No.
died?
It was after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he died 2 years before the release of this. So
Okay. Yeah, and this was Brian Henson's directorial debut, right?
Correct.
mhm.
I think I read
Mhm.
that somewhere.
I love it. I thought he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
he did, and then
absolutely.
that and stepping into the into the shoes of his father. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not an easy thing to ask, especially when your dad's Jim Henson.
Well,
But and we say Jim Henson, we kind of tend to leave his mother out of the equation, who was instrumental in starting
Yes.
the Muppets as well.
Mhm.
We got Patrick and Ro in the
Patrick and Ro.
house.
Ray was talking about a case of cat food or something earlier. I don't know. He's had a weird day.
Oh, I'm sure we can spin some fun tales later about that.
That's fine. So, all right. So you mentioned, Nicole, that there were some things, that there was one thing specifically that you don't love about Muppet Christmas Carol. So,
Yes.
so what is your gripe?
We already talked
Inquiring
about
minds want to know.
it. We already talked about it.
Which was
They
the
cut
song.
The song.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
As an
okay.
adult, because
So-
remember when I didn't watch this until I was as a child, I can only remember watching the other ones, like watching the family Christmas, Muppets Christmas, and then watching the one with John Denver. I can remember that. But as an adult, I'm like, I appreciate that. That is like cutting. They almost cut like, from Wizard of Oz, over the rainbow. Okay.
Right.
Think on that, people.
Right.
So I just think as an adult, I just think that I would appreciate it. And I think there's a lot of adults that see the good in it and they love it.
Yeah, no, I like that song was very memorable for me.
Yes. It's beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
And who knew Michael Caine had a voice?
Did Michael Caine actually sing that?
Yes, you can find. Yes, actually,
I thought it was the
he was singing in the studio.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's such, and of course we can't talk about like characters in the Muppet Christmas Carol without mentioning the headmaster. I always got the biggest kick out of, what is it, Sam the Eagle is the headmaster.
The headmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, he just sells himself.
One of my favorite lines is he's in the American way, and they're like, somebody corrects him. He's like, the British way.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. So man, I can't believe it's been out for 30 years. That's blowing my mind a little bit and make me feel a little bit old, if we're going to be honest.
Okay.
Wow. Hang on. I'm still trying to grapple with this. Like, I still feel like I'm young, like
you are young, Marisha.
I feel like, I'm like in my 20s and I'm not.
Yeah.
not even close anymore.
You can be 29 plus.
29.
You level up. Okay. Remember, you can level up and we're all good.
Absolutely.
You level 29 and you're awesome.
Mm-hmm. So yes, we were all young for sure.
Yeah, that's right, Ro.
So what do you think is the most creative casting choice in Muppet Christmas Carol? Because you've got some kind of unexpected. I mean, some people are shoe-in, right? Like the grumpy old hecklers,
Yes,
doing the Marley number.
Marley and Marley.
Yes. But what do you think is the most that shouldn't work casting choice for Muppets and Muppet Christmas Carol? Like unexpected, like I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, that's obvious, right? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I'm thinking on that because
me personally, I would have never been like Gonzo as Charles Dickens.
But that's he did perfect. Wonderful. I love it.
And his sidekick, the rat. Like
him and Rizzo, man.
It's just it's one of those things, like, you see it as a kid, it's like, oh, this works. But as an adult, you're like, whose idea was this? How did they get the Pepe? Yes. Oh, Pepe.
Pepe is one of the most underrated Muppets.
Yeah, the kids were getting a pretty big Pepe the other day. So what do you think, love? Like, you're in the writer's room and somebody's like, ooh, I've got this idea.
I don't know. I mean,
I feel like Kermit is Bob Cratchit. And that pretty much goes without saying,
that makes
right?
Sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
No contributions on the subject.
I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. I mean, anytime you use Rizzo or Pepe in a relatively serious role, it's a risk, I think.
That's true.
Although this is not, it's related but not related, I want to make a note about the Ghost of Christmas Present. I love that ghost in this movie because the joy that you feel, like, I'm like, oh, when that song comes on, I am there. I'm with them. I want to be with them. I want to be on the streets, like in
Yes.
Christmas Present with him and Ebenezer Scrooge singing along.
Yeah,
Those three ghosts for Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future, those particular Muppets were created specially just for this movie. They were going to originally use other Muppets and decided against it and create new ones. And I thought that one in particular,
yes,
didn't scare the living bejeepers out of me, because that's a whole nother subject. But Muppets Present, that was still probably one of my favorites. Like,
yeah, that was great.
Other movies where I'm like, okay, those are good.
Absolutely. Like, that's the one, when I think the Ghost of Christmas Present, that's what I envision is.
Same.
What about the ghost? What I think is one of the weirder choices. What do y'all think about the Ghost of Christmas Past?
The weird little creepy girl.
Yeah.
I heard they took her from a different movie.
Interesting.
I have to look it up, because I thought I had heard that I'd have to look it up. I'd heard
it was an interesting.
That one almost feels out of place to me.
But her voice is so soft, and I like that.
I like the voice.
But
it's the glowing. It's not your typical Muppet. It's
honestly, I didn't even realize it was a Muppet till I was grown. I thought it was just like some kind of stuff, like, like an animation or just with like a weird filter.
Yeah, no, you could easily convince someone that didn't know better that was something animated.
Yeah, I did not realize it was a Muppet.
Jessica Fox was the voice. Karen Perrell, Rob Taggart. She actually had 3 puppeteers.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 puppeteers. I thought I had heard that. Huh.
Yeah, she is a weird little critter.
Yeah, I was hoping to see what I had heard. I'd heard that it was like that she was in another movie, or that they had taken her from another.
That would not be surprising. Like, the Ghost of Christmas Present, super, like, spot on, traditional Father Christmas, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, appropriately menacing. I would say maybe the quintessential portrayal of that character too. But yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Past, I'm with you. Could kind of keep her loose.
Yeah, I think that they did a good job with that part of the story. Like, I mean, I think overall that may be one of my favorite parts of the story, the storytelling in there. But yeah, that I always just thought that puppet was a little odd.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a little bit. Like I said, in fact, I'm not ever sure that I thought through that's actually a Muppet until I watched it like this year. I was like, that's not a actor.
It's definitely a Muppet. It's just
a strange one.
It's very different than the other choices.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because even like the Ghost of Future, that's also interesting because it's just really more of a shroud. You know what I mean? Like
the ring wraith, basically.
Right. It's just
the Reaper.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's also an interesting choice. But you know what? In a way, I think that was smart of them because honestly, to put like when Disney did it with Mickey's Christmas Carol, they put Pete, which makes sense, right? He's the bad guy. Right. Versus here, they would have chosen an actual Muppet, a beloved Muppet to be in that spot. And I don't know if our little hearts could have handled that at a young age.
Yeah.
Like, come on. We don't want to see like one of our favorite Muppets, Swedish Chef or somebody be in that spot.
Well, they could have used one of the monsters. I mean, they had a lot of monsters.
I know they had a lot of monsters, but I think this was the smartest choice.
Well, because any Muppet that they had chosen isn't going to be actually as
Like that.
scary.
Right.
Like
Haunting.
I mean, there's something real creepy. I mean, like I was legit scared of that critter when I was a kid.
No, I mean, I think it was a wonderful choice. I mean, to go with something that's it's symbolic. I mean, you know, everybody sees that and knows, you know, immediately associates that with death.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it does a strong job of getting the point across again without putting a Muppet that we know and love in that spot.
Yeah.
So we don't think about that every time we see that Muppet.
Yeah. Exactly.
But let's see. Honestly,
Swedish Chef is an incredible Muppet.
all the little vegetables singing.
You know, if we were covering the other Christmas ones, or if we talk about those, Swedish Chefs did great.
Yeah.
Well, again, anything you want to bring up, I mean, the other Muppet stuff is, and we are 46 minutes in, so
yeah.
All the other Christmas stuff is fair game tonight. We will probably cover some of that stuff more broadly as we. And for those that don't know, if you're watching this is kind of an unofficial kickoff for a full series on the Muppets, where we'll be covering Sam and Friends, which is the kind of the origin of the Muppets, Sesame Street, Muppet Movies, Muppet Show, and just kind of the overall history of the Muppets. And then somewhere towards the end of that, we'll be doing two shows that'll be a little bit different. We will do a Muppets trivia, and I will narrow it down to a range of something, so it's not just broad category Muppets, because that's too much. But we'll do that, and then Marisha and our other co-host David at some point are going to go to the Jim Henson Boyhood Home Museum.
You know, while we're talking about that, my dad's in the audience. Hey, Dad, you want to take a trip to Mississippi?
Do it.
Yep.
Do it.
I'm awful. I'm like, let's go. This has been a dream of mine. Let's go.
So we'll go visit the Jim Henson Boyhood Home exhibit and the birthplace of Kermit the Frog as well. So
it is very exciting. It is very exciting.
Oh yes, 'tis the season for Christmas parties.
Yeah, thanks for we don't care that you're late. Just thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still chit-chatting about Christmas Carol and Muppets Christmas.
All the good things. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just looking at me expectantly.
Well, I thought you had somewhere you were fixing to go with the conversation before I may have derailed it. I don't know.
It's possible.
So
I'm sorry. We're having our Christmas play at school tomorrow, and because I'm me, I'm sort of doing it. And I have a parent who had a baby today who's like, "Do I need to add my parents to the pickup roster?" I don't know. I don't want to worry about it. Sure. So I've got parents texting me while I'm trying.
I'm going to take your phone.
Well, she had a baby today. I can't put it off. So,
well, then we wouldn't be here.
I haven't really asked you yet, Nicole. What other things did you have? I know you've got some notes there, and so you did some research. What other things did you want to talk about Muppet Christmas Carol? Or I know we've got some others that we mentioned at the beginning that you specifically mentioned to me earlier, which was the Jug Band Christmas, which was predates a lot of the other.
Yeah, this I don't know anything about.
You don't know that one?
Any of these other Muppet Christmas.
We got to do it. We did do. We'll have to do some watch parties, and I don't mind rewatching them again. Anybody who's watching and is in our Discord, feel free to join us because we'll do it again and again. So the first one that I was mentioning was Emmett Otter's, jug band. And that came out in 1977. Of course, the great year as Star Wars. And that's where we get to first really see, Kermit the Frog on the big screen, how it looks, how that works, and that was their test. They wanted to see would it work, how would it go, and it worked. And I think Emmett Otter, it came first, and I think we all kind of forget it. We don't forget. There are some that it is just a cult following, and it has its people. But yeah, we get Kermit on the bicycle for the first time, and there's just so many good things. We get to meet the Otter family. With the Otter family, so adorable, and they've got some really good values in there too. So I don't want to give it all away, because if Marisha hasn't seen it, I want her to see it.
She is definitely not.
And I think it's also something that you can watch with your kids, and I think you would like.
Yeah.
Muppets are usually pretty safe to watch with the kids.
And it definitely has an important message in it. I have to say, I feel that there's an important message there. And you'll definitely get some Jim Henson fun vibes.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that one in a really long time. I'm gonna have to go look and see where it's available.
I want to say right now it's on Prime.
Okay. It looks like I've got a thing here coming up that says that it's on Prime and maybe also on the Peacock app.
Peacock, correct. Yep.
Interesting.
It's very short. It's only 48 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's really, really good. I think it's really, really good. It's also, fun fact, based on the 1971 children's book of the same name. So there's
okay.
There you go. Oh, and also written by Jerry Joel. So there you go. That connects us to Muppet's Christmas Carol, because Jerry Joel did a lot of the screenplays and a lot of the writing for the Muppets.
Yep.
Also, you're going to get a lot of really fun voices that you've heard before, like, shall I name off Frank Oz? Any of us who love our Yoda, we know what we're talking about.
Thanks for hopping in, Andrew.
So, and that also came out December 4th, 1977.
That's interesting. I think it's interesting that the first Muppet movie was a Christmas project. That's interesting.
And it was a special. And then in 1979 was John Denver and the Muppets A Christmas Together, and that came out December 5th, 1979.
Okay.
And I don't have it near me. I do have it near me somewhere, and that's of course the vinyl record of it. And I don't know, it's music. I like music. Yeah. Everybody knows this about me.
Oh yeah. See, we how many years ago? 1943. Yep. Charles Dickens.
We were talking about that actually when we were. It's happy birthday, 180 to A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, such a good. Whenever I was a teenager, decided I was like, oh, I'm going to read classic things, and of course, I read A Christmas Carol, and then I was like, I'm going to read all the other Dickens. I was like, this is all different from A Christmas Carol. This is all really different. It took me a lot longer to appreciate Dickens. I was mostly just bitter for a while that it wasn't all A Christmas Carol.
And then the Muppets Family Christmas came out in 1987. Again, these particular three that I'm mentioning are all made for TV movie specials.
Okay.
And that again, I loved that one. That's the one I can remember. I remember for many years not being able to find it. Now I know where to look.
The internet knows. Yes,
we'll go with that answer. But then that is the one, like, I remember thinking in my mind, but was I dreaming? Like, I remembered watching it in my grandparents' house, and going, was I dreaming about it? Because again, it had your Muppets, it had Muppet Babies, it had Sesame Street, it had Fraggle Rock,
all the things.
How special are we to have it all?
Yeah.
Like the universe before they did multiverses was there, and that was just amazing.
I mean, the thing is like every kid from born from like the 19. I mean, gosh, Sam and I started what, mid 60s, early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the impact across generations that Jim Henson has had on kids is
Mm-hmm.
kind of incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he's also makes a cameo in the Muppets Family Christmas as well. And again, that came out December 16th, 1987. So it just celebrated its own
It's my
milestone as well.
sister.
Your sister's never gotten in the chat before.
There she is. I bet it's one of her kids. I'm
Ah.
just going to bet.
It could be, but
It could be.
Sam the Eagle is pretty awesome.
Yes.
In
Oh,
that
I
movie.
love Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
That'll be its own show, because if not, I'll sit here and sing the whole theme song. God, stay focused. Because
I don't
I don't
remember
want
watching
to let my
Fraggle
cares
Rock as
get
a
away.
kid.
Where's
I'm not
Fraggle?
surprised you didn't watch Fraggle Rock as a kid. But
I mean, apparently it was around. Robin remembers being terrified by it, but
well, maybe that's why you didn't watch it.
maybe. Which is surprising because typically I was the one who was scared of things.
I love Fraggle Rock. Like
Me
that
too.
was one of my absolute favorites as a kid.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, we will do a whole episode for Fraggle Rock, and we'll have to get, it's a musical episode, so Cam will have to come on for that one.
Yes, and sing. Because I don't sing. I mean, I do sing, but it's
And there's a just totally off. I mean, it's Muppet, so it's not totally off topic, but it has nothing to do with this. But from the Muppet Show, Rolf sings a song called "You and I and George," which I'm pretty sure is a Groucho Marx song that I really want Cam to do.
yeah.
So that's something I will be working on.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we have the answer. It's not my sister, it's my brother.
That's cool.
It's Cole.
There you
Okay, and I was like, why does she remember Fraggle Rock and I don't? It was really I was really confused. Okay. Mystery solved. Mystery solved. It's about like the time Iana got on as me and really threw people.
But this also makes sense, though. Again, tying what we were just talking about into Muppets Christmas Carol, this makes sense as to why they were originally thinking it was going to be a made for TV,
because it had a lot of success.
They had been doing that this whole time, and then again, Disney steps in and goes, "No," because they saw something very special and went, "No, let's go there." And of course, at the time, I liked. Well, I look back, I know that wasn't it a full dark time? No, they were in their Renaissance time at that point. Disney was, and they were on something really good.
Though it was
even
a really
stuff going on behind the scenes, but still,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a golden time for adaptations of classic stories for Disney.
Again,
they had made a killing off of Little Mermaid.
Yep.
Beauty and the Beast,
Aladdin,
and it was like ding, ding, ding. Right. They were just sort of firing on all cylinders there,
right?
And so,
because they were coming off of they were coming from their dark times into what's known as the Renaissance, and then that Renaissance that also included the Muppets Christmas Carol. Like there was the movie side, and they, again, I know that the two behind the scenes were button heads, but they did see good stuff. And they both made it work.
Man. Yeah. It does kind of make sense, though, kind of in the context of all the other things that Disney was kind of doing really well with at the time.
Yeah.
A big screen adaptation of A Christmas Carol. How many big screen adaptations are there of A Christmas Carol?
Wow. Let me look. Hold up.
I don't know.
I don't remember there being one it seems like that one was kind of the first one in a while. It seems like maybe there was one in like the 50s or.
Well, I'm seeing two answers, and they're huge differences. One says 16 and one says 135. I'm not going to lie. I think 135 is very plausible. Did you know that there is a Christmas Carol that stars Carrie Fisher?
Wow.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher. Yes.
That's bizarre.
Yes, it does a Christmas Carol adaptation.
Okay.
The Internet Movie Database lists more than 100 versions of A Christmas Carol, including a video game.
Okay,
There you
but
go.
big screen adaptations, because I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean,
the BBC has done like at least 100
The
yeah, but I
oldest
mean,
over the
is from
years.
1901, called Scrooge, or also known as Marley's Ghost. That was the first adaptation,
Mhm.
movie-wise.
I bet it's not very good. If I just had to venture a guess. But yeah, it's one of those stories that is always getting. It's kind of like, Pride and Prejudice. It's like, how many times are they going to remake this exact same story
But
until people
it
quit watching
was
it?
done so well. I mean, I can watch Mickey's Christmas Carol, and I can still watch Muppets, and it would not
Mhm.
faze me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I can watch it again next week, and it would not faze me. I like
Yeah.
it. It's just favorite. It's a classic.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, I don't know. It's Disney and Muppets was kind of a, especially at that time, was kind of a natural marriage of properties, and
Mhm.
of course, it's also kind of how Disney gets in with companies. That's kind of how they got in with Lucasfilm, is they started having Star Wars days at Disney like 10 years before they bought it. They had a partnership with Lucasfilm, and some would argue some of the best stuff that they did with the Star Wars property was during that stretch of time with the
Yeah.
Star Wars days, Jedi Mickey, and some of that stuff.
Mhm.
That basically, when they bought it, they just scrubbed it all.
Mhm. Yeah, it was very weird.
Because at the time, so it was Michael Eisner,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and then the other one is because it went from Michael Eisner to Bob Iger to, and then back. Anyways, but there was
Is
one
there-
more. The other one is actually over. It's in there, and I've done tons of research on this guy. He's over DreamWorks now.
Interesting.
Because they came because those two were butting heads. That
Mhm.
was some of the big stuff that was going on. Jeffrey Katzenberg, that's what it was, because his last big thing was Lion King, and so him and Michael Eisner they were butting heads, even though we were getting all the good stuff. There was some pretty stuff going on behind the scenes.
That's how it goes sometimes.
But I will say this though, I will give them both credit because they both knew good stuff, and they were both willing to do what needed to happen to make that good stuff happen, and that I think is important. Like, and good stuff, not like pushing whatever we want. We actually see something. Like, they saw something in Muppets and went, no, this is a great idea. Like, hello, let's help. And then they took it over, and but this also wasn't like their first go around with Muppets either. The other ones have been on ABC before.
Right.
So yeah. So no Goofy Vader, Ro. Aww. Hey. Oh, chat's having fun.
Yeah. Yep. Always got to have fun over in chat world. Okay, I have to say, Goofy Vader is a little less of a win for me than.
Yeah, no, I think most people would agree that was where it went too far, but but most people, other than Roe, really liked the whole Jedi Mickey thing.
I like Jedi Mickey.
I like Jedi Mickey. I've got the pins from at least 4 of the Star Wars days. I never got to go. When I finally thought, oh, I might be able to go, Disney acquired Lucasfilm and immediately shut down Star Wars days. But Star Wars days, my dad went to at least 3 or 4 of those, marched in the parade as a stormtrooper. And, well, I mean, it was a Star Wars. It was basically like Star Wars Celebration. It was a Star Wars convention at Disney.
That's so cool.
All the actors were there. Lucas was there. I mean, everybody was there. And then the 501st came and marched in a big parade. And
You know, that's how my sister's kids got addicted to Star Wars. They went to Disney World and didn't know it was Star Wars weekend.
Mhm.
And this is how you do it,
They
friends.
brought home obsessed kids who now go with us.
Yeah, it was
and
kind
dress
of
as Star
funny
Wars
because like I was
costumes.
trying to get my kids into Star Wars. They were still pretty young, and I was like showing them all the Star Wars stuff, and they were fine, but they were kind of indifferent to it. And then my niece and nephew went to a Star Wars weekend, came back raving about Star Wars, and all of a sudden my kids were all into it. I was like, okay, whatever. However we got there,
That's how you make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I think they may have gone to the last one.
they must have been, had to have been.
Yeah, because they wrapped them up pretty soon after that.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, we're a little over an hour. So, does anybody have any final thoughts on Muppet Christmas Carol before we wrap up for the night?
It's just
I
so
love it.
good.
And if you haven't watched it, watch it.
Yeah, it's one of my
Watch me
favorites.
and
And stay
watch me.
tuned. Maybe we can do a watch party sometime
Yeah.
later this week before
I'm up for
Christmas. Okay. Well,
I'm up for
I
that.
will see what I can do to arrange that. Saturday night, we do have Festivus, our annual Festivus celebration, and the airing of the grievances. Ro didn't come to the airing of the grievances last year, but it seems like it's right up his alley. So Ro, you should really come participate in Festivus.
What time
this
is
year.
your show starting on Saturday night?
8 o'clock?
Yes.
All right,
If you
Central
want
time. All right.
Yeah, 8 Central.
if you want Andrew's grievances with you to be aired, then come. I won't be there.
I mean, I kind of have this vision of it's just going to wind up just me on here by myself with nobody in the chat of me just like ranting like a mad person. No, it's not a total rant fest. We did it last year. It was a lot of fun. So
I think I
tune in
do
for that.
remember that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good deal. Any final thoughts, Marisha?
I don't think so. You should see it. It's a good one.
Well, thank you to everybody that joined us in the chat tonight. And I will keep an eye on Twitter, and I will see what I can do about a watch party for this. And it's not terribly long, so maybe this and Emmett Otter. So maybe we can do both of those. But stay tuned for that. I will also be doing sometime next week a year-end review for what all we enjoyed throughout 2023 and what we're looking forward to going into next year. So keep an eye out for that. I haven't decided what day we're going to do that yet, but it will be next week. And who knows who might show up, because it's going to be an open invite for all of the Red 5 network. So look forward to seeing who shows up for that.
Wait, when will this be?
Next week. Not on our anniversary. That's actually not next
Happy early
week, though.
anniversary.
That's technically 2 weeks.
It's true. Our anniversary is New Year's Eve, so
Aww,
we
I love
ensured
it.
that it would never ever be forgotten. I'm not much one for dates, but I always remember.
It's hard to forget that one.
It's hard to forget. It's also hard to find a babysitter. for
Well,
that
it's
one,
hard to,
it
yeah, like
turns out.
we also just embraced that until our kids are grown, that we will be just doing family things on our anniversary. So
Yeah.
eh,
It's romantic though. I
Yeah.
like it. But we will not be doing a podcast that day.
no.
Nope.
But sometime this coming week after Christmas, we will do our year-end review, and that should be a lot of fun. So, and that'll wrap us up for the year. After that, then going into next year, we've got a new show that I kind of got to work on a little bit before I make too many announcements about it. But it's going to be a 5 to 10 minute news desk style segment that I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and lots and lots of Muppets.
Yes.
So.
Mhm.
And the Muppet shows will range across here on YouTube, the audio channels for the Science Fictionary and Coruscant Radio Underground, because we can't talk about Muppets without talking about the Creature Shop's contribution to Star Wars and some of our other favorite science fiction and fantasy properties.
Mhm.
And so we'll cover that on Coruscant Radio Underground. And I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to pretty much cover across the board on all of our channels. So,
That'll be great.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, Nicole, do you want to let people know what y'all have coming up and
Oh my
where they can
gosh.
find you?
Yes. Okay. So I'm Nicole. Well, I'm Peace Love Fandoms on Instagram as well as Twitter and TikTok. One half of Peace Love Disney on Facebook, and 1/3 of Views and Abuse, which we actually did do a show recently because we've been a little bit hiatus. You know, we support each other at our channels and then with our network. But we finally got to get Kim and Scott and I together, and we got to do we just kind of chilled and just did a fun little holiday fun wrap up relaxation kind of thing. But I'm also spearheading the Red 5 reading book club for the Red 5 network, and we just finished Heir to the Empire Volume 1. Loved it.
So good.
The poll happened, and we're actually doing volume 2 and 3 over the next 3 months. I'm so excited for that. And within that, I actually started doing a little podcast called On the Fives. And that is fun because tomorrow we have an episode that's dropping with a special guest, Cam Ray. I was very, very lucky. I got to have him, and a particular monkey lizard also shows up. And then actually another show's dropping already on the 25th with Charles of Conversations, and that's a holiday edition. So in the future, we do have another one already kind of in the mix of what's coming up. So I'm so excited for those shows.
Awesome.
I'm so excited. It's fun. Ro has been my partner in crime on the Five, so I have a big thank you to him. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm so excited, and I know eventually I got to get you guys on the Fives because either together or separate. Because actually, no, I might actually have to do Marisha separate at some point because. I mean, all you have to do is watch the episode with me and Kim, and you know why. Tea spills differently, people. It is what it is.
Just let us know. We'll be glad to jump in on it. And I'm going to catch up. Are y'all doing a final review of Heir to the Empire, the first book?
Yes, we are. Thank you. We are. Yep. Actually, we have it planned January 5th. I don't know exactly if it's going to be a 6 or 7 Central Time. That's still to be determined. Okay. But we are going to do a book review on that. I'm so excited. We're going to
awesome. Well, I will get it read by then. I got behind and life got crazy, and I didn't get to participate as much as I wanted to in this first book, but I'll be around for the next 2, but I'll get it read before.
And for those who don't know, we actually do our book discussions in the Red 5 Network Discord, and I made a last minute decision on the first night. Decided we would do it in the voice channel. Smartest, best decision ever. Because sometimes like the dialogue just flows completely different. And like I have some questions or sometimes I'm like, I got 1 or 2. Let's see. Because it just flows so naturally and it just works out. It just, it's awesome. It's getting to know others, and I love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
I saw something up here. I just wanted to... Yes, I'm hearing wonderful things about this. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet. I will, and we will do a whole show on it.
Ubalda's is also in that book club.
Awesome. Well, so I'm definitely looking forward to this Godzilla movie. I haven't watched it yet because I got my packet in to vote for this year's Saturn Awards the other day and realized that there are several movies that are nominated in practically every category that I haven't seen yet. So those are at the top of my priority list before I think my cutoff for voting is on January 2nd.
I'm excited for Saturn Awards. Okay,
yeah, we're gonna do a full
on the Saturn Awards, and now I'm like, oh my god, it's a Saturn Awards. Forget everything else. Watch that.
I'm excited about it, and I'm really excited to be voting in them this year.
Maybe one of these years. I wish I could vote, but if I could, I know exactly where I would vote, and I was right. I did push out when I first watched Oppenheimer and I watched Barbie. I'm like, those 2 are going to lead. But then I said the Leonardo DiCaprio would come right out from the gates and somehow would still be in there. And sure enough, his movie's in there. But I'm like, no, come on. Here we go. Here's Oppenheimer. Come on, let's go. And then Barbie is what it is, whether you like it or not. It's a give or take, people. It's a 50-50.
Yeah.
So
But stay tuned because I think the Saturn Awards are in March.
mhm.
I believe early March, and I very much intend to do I know last year when I did it, Nicole and I chatted a
We
lot
did.
during it, and
We
that was
did.
fun. That was enough fun that I very much intend to do a watch party this year.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that
But
as well.
it's a late night watch party, so make sure
Mhm.
you're
Yes, it
up
goes
the
late.
next
It goes
day.
very, very long.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah, I went to bed. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
Marisha went to bed like an hour into it
Yeah,
last
I was
time.
like, sorry.
Well, it's West
into a
Coast, so it gets a
commentary.
late start for us, and then it goes for like 3 or 4 hours. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
but we will. We're going to do it. I'm going to watch it anyway. So, if you want to watch the Saturn Awards with us, come on and do it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if you're not part of our Discord channel, be sure to join us over there. And if you need a link, just hit me up on Twitter, and I'll get you a link.
Sounds good.
All right.
Very exciting.
You got anything to share before we leave? Any Instagrams or
Princess and
Twitters?
Instagram.
Is it by chance known as Princess and Padawans? I'm just curious. Am I right?
Yes, I do. Haven't had put much up on it lately. I've been very busy with my first ever like actual big girl job. Like movies is different. So yeah, like a real have to be there at 7:30 and have to stay until it's done job. So
Yeah.
teaching his
Well, it's your first real 9 to 5 job.
yeah.
You know, I mean, like movie making's like a 9 to 9 job, but
Or a
or
12 to
longer.
12 or yeah.
5 to 5,
different.
whatever they choose for that particular day.
Yeah.
But then you get to come home and sleep for a couple of weeks.
Exactly. Exactly. So like this, like you have to be there at 7:30 every morning for the foreseeable future is just it's a lot.
Well, everybody be praying for Marisha to go back and work on movies then.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure all my school people are trying to pray me out of movies. They're like, you should just stay. I'm like, no, they're like, yes. Like, I'm not doing this forever. Yeah, you are. I'm like, no, I'm not. We just have this round and round going on. So yes, someone needs to pray me back into movies before they pray me out of them.
Sent.
Yes.
Ubaldo and Isaac sent.
Yes. Okay, perfect.
I'm
Wait,
like,
is Zelda? I'm confused.
All right, I will get y'all a link. I should have had it pulled up, but I don't.
Yes. Come on, love. Come
Well,
on.
I thought I had
Oh, there it is right there. Discord.
that link.
and
You
I
may
just
need
sent-
it.
and
Oh,
I
you
just
sent it to them?
I just
Okay.
did a quick invite, like.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Thank you. Awesome. Well, so you can find me running the Twitter account for this show at sci_fictionary. You can drop us a line at theScienceFictionary@gmail.com. Also, check out our other podcast, which is going to do a lot more this coming year, which is Coruscant Radio Underground, for everything about that galaxy far, far away. And as always, be sure to check out our podcast and all of the rest of the Red 5 podcast family at Red 5 Network on Twitter.
All right.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. Thank you again, Nicole, for coming on. And until next time.
And be a part of all this crazy, fun Muppets mayhem. We'll go with mayhem. It's a good word with it.
Yeah. May the force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.